Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is Thursday, December 3rd, 2020, and it is about 17 in the morning. Yeah. And I'm just a little melancholy today. This morning. I won't say today. I'll say this morning. Even narrow it down even more to say just in this moment. Because my prayer is that it will pass. That it will not linger on me. We had a family member lose a child yesterday to I'm going to say gun violence, although I don't know the entire story, and I don't need to know the entire story. What I do know is that he was shot and he succumbed to his wounds. So I don't know. Pardon me. I don't know. Again, I don't know the details. I do know that he was a lost young man. Lost in that he, from what I was able to observe, not what he ever said to me, but what I was able to observe, he did not feel this was a mistake. He did not feel as if he was a part of, this was such a mistake, a loving, I don't know. I don't know that I can say loving family, because he was missing something. He felt like something was missing. That's what I'll say. He felt as if something were missing from what I observed. And I think most of our children that were raised by a single parent, but especially a single mother, our children feel as if they are missing something to a degree, because that other parent, especially that father, wasn't around to be who he is supposed to be in the household. And you know, we can say a whole lot about it socially. We can say a whole lot about it, spiritually or scripturally. We can say a lot about it, but the bottom line is there are a lot of children out there that feel like they're missing out on something because that other parent, most specifically that father, is not or was not in the household. So I pray for the family member, because she has to forever live with this. She has to forever live with this until the day that she leaves the earth. She has to forever live with the loss of a child. And I was trying to write an article about it and not make it all about her and her loss, but just mothers in general, more specifically about me and the concerns that I had was raising my children, and I could only get so far, and then it just wasn't coming out the way that I heard it in my head. So I'm sorry, I was 100% distracted by the fact there is a human being standing in the middle of the freeway, in the median part that, you know, dissects the two directions. One of the homeless individuals, and I say with certainty that it was a homeless individual because he had his sleeping coverings with him, whether it was a sleeping bag or just a comforter and a mat. I couldn't tell which it was. See, I should not be on the freeway. I should not. There's just too much that happens on the freeway. Too much. Jesus. So anyway, I was trying to write this article, and it wasn't coming out the way it sounded in my head. So I stopped writing the article. I stopped writing it, and I'll go back to it because I need to go back to it. I need to finish it. So I would ask that you all would pray whenever you see this for that family member and her other children and her grandchild as they deal with the loss of this young man. He was young. He was 18. And I don't want to even begin to imagine what that pain feels like. Having had my own children and being concerned about them losing their lives, you know, in various ways for no good reason. Whatever reason the perpetrator may have given, whether it were another citizen, another young man, or it was law enforcement, or whatever. That's always been a concern of mine, that I would lose one of my children that way. In any way, I should say. I can't even say that way, in any way. Because to lose a child to even a disease, I can't even imagine that happening, because that was also a concern. What if, you know, how would I deal with a child who had some life-threatening disease? And how, Lord, how would I deal with that? And I don't know. I don't know. It would truly be an act of God holding me, the hand of God holding me together to deal with that, because I just don't see how I would have been able to deal with it on my own. And that's what it's going to take for this family member, the hand of God holding her together, because I just don't see any mother being able to deal with that on their own. In the article that I was writing, I did say something along the lines of, if I had to put a tangible feeling to that kind of pain, I would say that it measures out to 100 times more than the pain of an unmedicated natural birth. I would say that's what it would, but it could even be more gut-wrenching than that. If you've never had an unmedicated natural birth, then you have no clue what that pain feels like. And I don't mean just the contractions, I mean the entire process, the start to finish, the initial contractions, the intense, heavy contractions where you feel like your insides are being ripped apart. And then the actual pushing out of the human being. And then the ring of fire, because the head is right there and it won't move. So everything around it feels like it's on fire. And all of that magnified by 100 times is what I said that kind of loss could measure up to for a parent, and for a mother specifically. And even that, I don't think does it justice. That level of pain, I can't even. I can't. So again, I would ask that you pray for that mother and her other children, because it's just so much. What I was saying before about him feeling as if, please don't come over here, him feeling as if he did not belong because his father was not in the household. For whatever reason, his father was not there. His father did not play a regularly active, positive role in their lives. And I can't, having been a child raised by a single mother, with my father not actively, positively playing a role in my life, I know what that feeling is, to feel as if you don't belong. And I've talked about this before. I've actually written about this before. Your identity is in your bloodline. And when part of that bloodline is absent from your life in a physical sense, you don't feel like you belong. You just don't feel like you belong. You feel lost and uncertain and insecure. Your spirit is uneasy. I know what that feels like. And then I had to raise my own children in the same way. And I hated that, because I knew what that loss was, and not having that father figure there. You know, I knew what that was. And I won't even say father figure. Having the father absent from the household, I knew what that felt like. And then I had to raise my children that way. And it was traumatic to know that I had to raise my children that way. Because with my oldest son, his father, I didn't even want to be around, in all honesty. If I am being truly transparent, I didn't even want him around, but I knew that I could not deprive my son of his presence. So I allowed him to see him whenever he wanted. The only stipulation was, if you're taking him from the house, I need to know where you're going. And if he's going to stay overnight with you, I need to know where you're laying your head. Every opportunity. I put up no blocks. Those were the only two stipulations. And that man was not active in his son's life in a positive way. With every opportunity that he had, he was not active in a positive way in his son's life. And then with my ex-husband, who is the father of my younger two, he had every opportunity to be an active participant in the lives of his children, and he chose not to. And I knew where he lived for a good portion of his singledom after we divorced. Because there were times when the children stayed the night with him. I would have to take the children out to his apartment and they would stay the night with him. But at some point, he decided that he no longer wanted to be actively present with them. And he would disappear quite often. It was usually when he got into a new relationship, and he swears that's not the case, but it was a pattern. And then with the last young lady that he got with, he did the same thing. He just would not actively participate in their lives, and he would only show up when it was, in my opinion, convenient for him to be there. And my children, all three of them, felt as if they did not belong. They could not figure out why their fathers did not want to be an active part of their lives. And because of that, they suffered emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I know that a lot of the things that they did and still do to this day, quite honestly, is because the fathers were not there actively. I held up no blockades, even when I had to go to court for child support, and my oldest son's father said that he was going to ask for visitation, and I told him I didn't have a problem with him visiting his child, not at all. As a matter of fact, when he did try to say that he wanted visitation, the judge asked if I had any opposition to that, and I explained to the judge that I had no opposition. My only time of opposing it was when he was dating some woman who did not want me to know where she lived, but my son could lay his head there. No. Unacceptable. So not having, that was the only opposition that I had, and the judge fully understood that. But getting back to the feeling of not belonging because the father wasn't there, again, that is a part of your identity. That is a huge part, the majority part of your identity when you are being formed as a child. And not having that there is just heartbreaking. So I would say for any parent that is not in the household with their child, but has the ability to be connected with them, and you're not connecting with them, I would have to ask you first, why are you not? What is the issue? And then two, I would ask you to connect with your child. I know of fathers who wanted to be connected with their children, but the mothers were truly putting up blocks. Like with one of my grandchildren, my son is so wanting to be an active part of his child's life, and the mother is actively putting up blocks and making it impossible in many ways for him to connect with his child, and has done so with us as well. But I can't ask you any more than this, and asking you to be an active part of your child's life, even if you're not in the household. Be a positive influence. Participate in their activities with them. Show up to their outdoor activities. And yes, right now in the pandemic, it's difficult to do. If your child is indeed in an activity, with the pandemic, it's difficult to be there, but it's not impossible. So show up for your child. Show up for your child. I am so saddened by the fact that this family member had to lose her child this way. And he chose the lifestyle that he was living. And some would say, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And yeah, but that doesn't minimize the pain that she's feeling because she's lost her child. Doesn't minimize that at all. It doesn't take away from the fact that she's got to funeralize her child. So be there and pray for my family member, but be there for your children. And sometimes you can be absent and still be in the household. So be there for your children. Be there. All right, I've got to go in here and get some water. So before I get to the office, I'm not just down the street from the office. So I'm going to get some water because that water is still nasty in the office. With that, peace and blessings. Remember to walk in your purpose. And know that I appreciate you.